Hello everyone, it's Deb again. So in this video I thought I would talk about refried beans and show you how I make them in my Instant Pot here. And this is an ingredient that I use a lot. This is a staple in my pantry and I always have refried beans of some sort, you know, either getting ready to be made with the dry beans, or I do keep sometimes I keep cans of refried beans around. I actually didn't have any on hand because I haven't made them or needed them in so long that I just don't keep them. But I bought them just for this video so I could show you what I started with and everything. And I am going to set the camera down now because I don't want you to have to deal with my shaky hands. Hopefully this will help. And so I've been using refried beans on like quesadillas for like 15 years or so. And what I first started out buying was these canned, already made refried beans from Amy's. And I'm organic, so this is just kind of what I could find. So this is the traditional, and these are pinto beans, and these are black beans. And I'm kind of weird and I like to mix things, so I would take a can of each and dump them into a big bowl and mix it up together, and then that would be my refried bean base that I could use for quesadillas or whatever I wanted to make. And then, but these are pretty expensive. The Amy's, these are $3.29 each. So this is super expensive, and so I had to find a different way after a while. I just dealt with this in the beginning because, I didn't know how to make it myself, and I was pretty sick at that time, and my ex was actually having to make my dinners for me for quite a few months, and so it was just easier to do this for the longest time, and I could buy them like in bulk and everything, and that helped. But in today's prices, these are super expensive. And then this is La Preferdia, and these are not very good. I mean, I have to admit, these were $2.29 a can, and this is a generic brand, and this was only $1.29 a can. But seriously guys, these do not taste very good at all. They don't have any spices in them whatsoever, and they're super thick. So when you take it out of the can, what you have to do is put it in a bowl and start mashing it with some fresh filtered water to start loosening it up, because otherwise you really can't use it for much straight out of the can. And so if you do go with canned refried beans, just know that they're super thick and you might have to thin it down a little bit with water. Even the Amy's, I was having to thin down, just not as much. Let me move this a little bit. And so I got sick of paying the high prices for that, and I started buying just cans of beans and just making my own, basically. And so I would buy one of each, or I would use one of each. These actually come in 4 packs, and so it's a little bit cheaper. And these are about $1 a can, so it wasn't bad. But I would take one of each, and I would mix it with my spices, which I have sitting back here. And for years and years, I've grown my own peppers, and so I've always made like diced jalapenos or whatever. And now that I don't have a garden anymore, I have like this and one more jar left, and then that's it, and I'm not growing anymore. And so now I'm gonna have to start buying this, which is just an organic diced jalapeno. They also have just regular diced green chilies, which are not as hot, but I'm used to the heat from it because my jalapenos are very hot. And so I would just take those and mix it with the spices, and then that's how I was making my refried beans for a while. But then the waste got to me, all these cans that I was using, and it was not as expensive, but it was still, the cost of it was whatever. But then I got my Instant Pot, and that changed everything. And I realized that I could make them from dry in my Instant Pot in like about 2 hours, instead of spending, you know, hours and hours and overnight doing the regular, you know, because you're supposed to soak them and then you have to cook them for several hours and stuff. I just didn't have the time or the patience to do that. So I was just dealing with the canned beans until I got my Instant Pot. This is my mini Instant Pot. This is a 3-quart, and I actually have a 6-quart in the house, and that's what I normally use, but I'm just going to show you on this one. And so I can only use half of the ingredients that I normally do, because that's a 3-quart and that's a 6-quart, and so obviously I can't use the full amount. And sorry, my chair is squeaking. And you know, it's okay to do it with the canned beans and everything, but these taste so much better. I don't know what it is. I mean, I know partially what it is, and that would be this. It's Better Than Bouillon organic chicken base. And so instead of cooking these in water and salt like they do with the canned, I use this instead of salt, and it just gives it such a really nice deep flavor. I really like it a lot. And so I'm just going to try to make this as quick as possible. You know me, I can't really do anything fast. But normally you're supposed to rinse your beans and soak them and everything. But when you do pressure cooking, you don't have to do that. You don't have to go through any of that. And so what these are bulk pinto beans here, and I have bulk black beans, and I buy them from Azure Standard, and I buy 25 pounds of each, and I just refill my jars as they get empty. And normally I'm making enough to yield 3 of the bigger quart-sized jars, and it made so yeah, that was 3 quart-sized jars. So instead, this is a 24-ounce jar. It's in between the pint jar and the quart jar, and so this recipe will yield 2 of these. And so I just have my scale here. I don't know if you can see that or not. And I've got it on pounds. And normally I would use 1.5 pounds of beans, which is 12 ounces of each. But since I'm doing half of that, I'm just going to use 6 ounces of each. And if you buy the good organic beans and everything, and even regular non-organic, they're usually pretty clean. I mean, they do clean them. What you do have to do is just kind of sort through them and make sure that there's no rocks. I mean, basically that's the only thing you have to do. And if there's any really shriveled up beans, I usually will take that out. But these are very, very high quality beans, and I rarely have a problem with it. So this is the insert for the Instant Pot. It's just this little guy, and I just dump them straight in there. I don't rinse them or nothing, you know, because a little bit of dirt, honestly, is not going to kill you. And so I just do, you know, normally 12 ounces each, but right here I'm going to do 6 ounces each. And I've just perfected this equation, the water to bean ratio. I just experimented with it until I got it to where it needed to be. And I like my digital scale. It's pretty good. Okay. And so again, you just kind of rifle through the thing. And the reason why I weigh them out in this measuring cup is because I use the measuring cup to measure my water. And so I'm, you know, doing a double duty here. And then normally I would use 8 cups of water, but tonight I'll just use 4 cups of water, and this is reverse osmosis water. I don't have to drain these afterwards. I don't have to rinse them. I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to let them sit overnight. Nothing like that. This is super easy. And it works fine. It works perfectly. This is how beans are actually made at the cannery. They don't sit around and slow cook and soak them and all that kind of stuff. They put the beans and the water and the salt in the cans. They put the lid on, and then they go through a process that cooks them at a really high temperature or pressure or something like that. But they don't do what Grandma did. They're not soaking beans or anything like that. Oh. Okay, hold on. I'm missing something. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. I lost my spoon. So I just wait until I get the water and everything in there, and then I plug it in, because it's going to come on automatically when you turn it on. And then I normally use 2 big heaping tablespoons of this chicken base, but I don't have my tablespoon out here. I've only got a teaspoon, so I'm just gonna do a really heaping, and then you just stir it in until it dissolves. And again, there's no need to add salt because this has sodium in it. They do have, I believe, a low sodium of this, but I don't bother with that because I want the salt in there, because that means I don't have to add any extra salt. And that beef base, or the chicken base, kind of wants to stick to the spoon. It's really thick, and so I just stir it really good. And sometimes I just have to take the beans and smush them around on the spoon to pick up that chicken base, because it really stubbornly sticks to it. And then when you're done, you'll see it's all cloudy and everything because it's dissolved fully. And when it's stored in the refrigerator, it takes, 30 seconds longer, a minute longer. Just stir it until it's dissolved, because once you open this, you have to put it in the refrigerator. But when it's new, it's actually really thin. Not really thin, but it's not that thick. You can see it's not even moving. And if that was a new jar, that would actually, if you turned it upside down, it would run out. So it does thicken up in the refrigerator. And so I cook these, because I'm not soaking them or anything, I cook them for 50 minutes on high. And I don't know if you guys know how to use a pressure cooker or not, but I always make sure that's the pop-up button. I always make sure that it's free. I always make sure that the gasket is all the way down in that little channel, that little metal thing right there. Make sure it's sitting down in there properly. There's a groove in the gasket, and so just make sure it's down in there. And the Instant Pot has a lot of safety features. That's what it chimes at you all the time. And so you set it down on there, and when you turn it to lock it, it makes another thing, and it's not coming off. Like, that lid is not coming off. And there's like 11 or 12 different safety features here. And this one cooks a little bit differently than the 6 quart. It does the opposite. Like, once this is done, it will go into keep warm mode, and I don't want it to. And so you just press the the up and down, the plus and minus. And so I don't want it to go into keep warm when it's done. So on the mini, you push the keep warm button again. On the 6 quart, it's a little bit different. And so now it's taken the programming, and it will take, you know, depending on how much is in the pot and how cold or hot the water was, it can take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes for this to come up to pressure. And then once it comes up to pressure, then it will change from on to, it'll start at 50, and then it'll start counting down from 50 minutes down to 0. And when it gets to 0, it'll start beeping again, and it'll tell you it's done. And then I do a natural release with this, meaning there's a thing up here, a vent right here, and when you start out, this is venting and this is sealing. So right now, make sure that you have it on sealing, because if it's on venting, it won't come up to pressure. So you can see it's written right there, venting and sealing. And so when you first start out, make sure it's over on sealing and make sure it's level, because one time I had in the house, I had accidentally, it was cocked like that, and it wouldn't come up to pressure, and it was taking forever, and I was out here and I didn't know what was going on. And my ex called me and he's like, the pressure cooker is not acting right. And I came in and it was cocked up like that. So make sure that it's level like that, and that it is over here on sealing. And when it comes to pressure, that little pin will pop up, and it will stay up the whole entire time that it's running. And then for a natural release, you just leave it alone. When it's done, it's done. You just let it sit there and you wait until that pin drops back down. And that's what you have to do when you're doing high foamy things like beans and stuff that create a lot of foam in there, because if you try to release that pressure, that foam and stuff could come up through that little mechanism on the inside of the lid, and it can clog up the stuff up here. And so for beans, you just let it do a natural release. If you were cooking something else, that like potatoes, you do like 9 minutes and you do a quick release, which means right when it's done, you flip this little trigger to venting, and you put a towel over it. You put a towel over it, and then you flip it to venting, and it will release that pressure right away. So that's called a quick release. And then the other one that they use for Instant Pot is a 10-minute quick release, which means when it's done, you wait 10 minutes and then you do the release. So usually the recipe will tell you which way to do that. And so I'm just gonna move this over here so that I can see what's happening with it. But altogether it takes about 2 hours, because you know it has to come up to pressure, then it cooks for 50 minutes, and then it takes about 30 minutes or so to come down. And so it does take, you know, a couple hours, but that's why I make so many at a time, because these store really well in the refrigerator, in a really cold part of the refrigerator. And so, like I said, I usually get 3 quart jars, and that will last us 3 or 4 weeks, and they keep perfectly fine in the refrigerator. They don't go bad or anything. I do keep them in the coldest part of the refrigerator though, but that way I don't have to keep doing this every week. And so I just make a bunch ahead of time. And we do have 3 people, and usually it's just me and my kiddo, but sometimes my ex also has some. And so I just always like to have these on hand for everything. Alright, so I just wanted to show you real quick. The timer started, pin is all the way up, and so it's all at full pressure right now. So now that will start counting down until it gets to 0, and then it'll shut off and it'll beep at me again. It beeped just the one time when it hit pressure. Actually, the pin came up and it stayed up for about a minute, so it took it about a minute for it to register and get to full pressure, and then it beeped at me and the timer started. So here we go. Alright, so I just wanted to show you and let you hear the sound it makes when it's getting ready to go off. It's just like 30 seconds left. You can see the pin is still up there. And once that pin drops, it's kind of annoying how long it goes. But you know, if you're in the other room, you're definitely going to hear it. But now that pin is going to stay up. But if I was doing a quick release, like if I had potatoes in there, I would want to get that pressure off of them right away. And so I would throw a towel over this, and then I would turn that to venting. You just saw, it just started venting when I did that. But I don't want it to vent, so I'm going to leave it alone. But I would throw a towel over that and turn it to venting, and then that pin would drop right after that. And that, you just throw a towel over it because the steam coming out of that hole is just, it's huge. It's a huge plume, and it's actually kind of dangerous. And so you just put a towel over it, and that muffles the steam so that you don't burn yourself or anything. But at this point, because I'm doing beans, I'm going to do a natural release, and it will take probably about 20 to 30 minutes. It's 10:45 right now. It's pretty late, and so I'm just going to let it do its thing, and I will let you know how long it takes to depressurize in there. And this will make 2 of these jars, but because I'm using, basically I'm using the equivalent to 1 jar, I'm just going to fill up 1 of these. I just brought 2 of them out here just so you could see that this is how much this would yield, is 2 of these jars. But I'm going to use 1 of them, and I'm going to cook it right here in the pressure cooker. So I just need just the 1 jar. And these are wide mouth jars, and I have a wide mouth funnel right there to put that in. And so when that's all depressurized, I will get back to you. Hold on. Okay, so that took about 35 minutes, and the pin is down on that, so it's totally depressurized under natural depressurization. And because this video is getting so long, what I'm going to do is just finish up here and show you what I'm doing to pressure cook the beans, and then I'm going to make a second video to show you how I actually spice it up and do all that kind of stuff. So when it's done, you just turn the handle and it beeps at you. And then when I take the lid off, I hold the lid over the pot so that all that water runs back down into that pot, because if not, you're going to make a mess. Let me flip my screen up so I can see what I'm doing here. And so you just lift it straight up and then at an angle and let that water run back down into there. And let me show you before I even stir it. So that's what it looks like when you take the lid off. And then when you stir it, you can see all the water that's left in there. So that's what it should look like when you're done. And when these, when you put this in the jars and put it in the refrigerator, it will start to thicken. As it cools off, beans always thicken up. And so almost always, after I pull a jar out of the refrigerator to reheat it and turn it into refried beans, I almost always have to add water to it. This is pretty loose right now, but I cook it down. Once I add the peppers and the spices to it, I cook it down which you'll see in the next video. And so a lot of that liquid is going to disappear. It's just going to evaporate off. And so I just, again, because this is only going to make 2 jars, I'm just going to can up the 1 jar right now. And then I'm going to use the other jar basically right now. So when I'm making a full recipe, it makes 3 quarts. And so I'm actually only canning up 2 of the jars because I used the 3rd one. And these wide mouth funnels, they make it really easy. And I just put that paper towel there because I go really fast and I don't wait for it to drain. And if I didn't have that paper towel there, I would be making a huge mess right now. And I just fill it up to that bottom line there. Or thereabouts. A little bit more. And so that's going to be the end of this video. And so just stay tuned for part 2, and I will show you how I turn these pressure cooked beans into refried beans. I forgot to do my thing again. God, you've been at a crazy angle this whole time. I'm sorry. I forgot to flip the screen again. So I haven't been able to see what I'm doing here. And these canning jars, they come with 2-piece lids. If you've never canned, you may not know this, but and they come with lids specifically made to do canning. And I'm not canning these, but you'd be surprised. This is so hot right now that when I put the 2-piece lid on and let it set and everything, it actually, that little button, it does pop down. Normally it would just do that when you're canning, but because this is so hot right now, I put the lid on right away. This is very, very, very hot right now. And I'm just going to let that sit at room temperature until it cools down most of the way. And then I'll put it in the refrigerator. And when I go to open this and use it like next week or whatever, that little indentation will have popped down. So it's almost like it's preserving itself. It's almost like it's canning itself because it's so hot right now. And so after this cools down a little bit, I'm going to put that in the refrigerator. So I guess I'll end this video now and pick up on a part 2 where I show you how to use the Instant Pot, how to turn this into like cheater refried beans, you know what I mean, because I'm not actually frying them in oil or anything. But you'll see that in the next video. Alright, talk to you later. Bye.